The following program paid for by Lifespan Wealth Management. Providing financial advice since 1993. It's time for Your Money with Sherry Goss, Randy Goss, and Jonathan Eisner. And now from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Good morning, Middle Georgia, and thanks for tuning in to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing we do is provide retirement planning advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. So if you're looking for an investment advisor, call our office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation.
Lifespan Wealth Management has offices in Macon and Warner Robins for your convenience and has been serving Middle Georgia for over 30 years. You can learn more about our services by visiting our website at retirerelax.com. And while you're on our site, go to the special reports section where you'll find several reports that are available to you for free. You can also sign up to receive our digital feeds, which are short videos providing great information relevant to retirement, investing, and matters that affect your money.
We also offer seminars to the community at no cost. So if you're in need of a guest speaker for your church or civic organization, give us a call, and together we can decide what topics you would like us to present to your group. Again, our contact number is 478-922-8100. Good morning and welcome back, and thanks for tuning in again today. And also thanks for the positive feedback we had last week on last week's guest, Dr. Richard Eisner, and our discussion about dry eyes and the effects that everyone's have being stuck in front of some sort of a digital device for about 7 hours every day. And we always appreciate your feedback. And anytime you want to drop us a message and give us some feedback, you can email me at randy@rfmoney.com.
And you can go to our website, retirerelax.com, and you can hear past recordings.
That's right. So, Sherry, on to you.
So, markets. Taiwan Semiconductor is investing $100 billion with a B in U.S. chip plants, and a lot of this is going on with other companies as well. From Horizon Investments, who's a company that we follow, don't freak out. Uncertainty and change may seem scary in the near term, but the data suggests making rash portfolio changes in such an environment is not conducive to long-term success. Number 2, don't trade on politics. Translating political actions into market prices is rarely a straightforward exercise, and that's before one even considers the potential for bias to enter the equation. Encouraging your clients to focus on the bigger picture can help them stay on the right track. And 3, instead, stay the course.
All right. Good advice. All right, and on to weekly mortgages. Weekly mortgage demand surged 20% higher after interest rate drops to the lowest since last year. The average contract interest rate for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage with conforming loan balances of $806,000 or less decreased to 6.73% from 6.88%. The total mortgage application volume jumped 20.4% last week compared with the previous week, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. This was not only the first increase in three weeks, but it was an outsized move. A sharp drop in mortgage interest rates finally lit a fire under loan demand. Both current homeowners and potential home buyers jumped back into the market after a lackluster showing so far this year.
The U.S. continued to generate jobs at a steady pace in February, offering reassurances that the labor market has remained relatively stable since Trump took office. The U.S. added 151,000 jobs in February, according to the Labor Department, which was slightly below the 170,000 jobs that economists expected. The unemployment rate, which is based on a separate survey from the job figures, rose to 4.1% from 4%. Next up, just like that, guys, we are approaching tax season already.
Yay.
For 2025. Everybody's favorite season. It's just like Christmas. There's Christmas and then tax season.
Almost like Easter.
Yeah,
Right.
I love what we do. I could not imagine being a CPA.
Oh, my goodness.
I just couldn't do it.
I know. So, again, I don't know about you guys, but it seems like January and February just kind of flew by.
Absolutely.
blur.
A blur. And here we are. It's almost mid-March already. You guys were talking about cherry blossom this morning. And going, and Sherry wants to ride all the rides at Central City.
She loves that.
She loves it.
Yep.
I love the dirtiness of it.
Yeah.
and all the cigarette smoke and sweat.
Her favorite pastime.
Yeah.
So, as tax season approaches, I figured I wanted to cover a few things on this week's show, just as either informative pieces or reminders for people out there as we approach tax season. First thing we want to talk about is capital gains taxes, and Randy, we'll let you cover this part.
All right. All right, let's discuss long-term gains and short-term gains. So first, what are capital gains? If you sell an investment for more money than what you paid for it, then you've realized the capital gains. You can generate capital gains from the profitable sale of stocks, bonds, real estate, cars, or and any other asset. You'll likely owe taxes on the profits you made from these transactions, though the rates varies depending on a few factors. And a few assets are exempt from capital gains. Capital gains taxes fall into one of two categories. There's short term and then there's long term.
Short term capital gains are the profits you make from selling an asset you've held for 1 year or less. The IRS treats short term capital gains the same as ordinary income, which means the tax rate you'll pay on short term profits taken this year will correspond with the 2024 federal income tax bracket, which range from 10 to 37%. Long-term capital gains, on the other hand, are the profits you make from selling an asset you've held for more than a year. There are only 3 tax rates for long-term capital gains, 0, 15, and 20%, and the IRS notes that most taxpayers pay no more than 15%. Qualified dividends are also taxed at the long-term rate.
The normal capital gains tax rules apply to most types of assets. Randy covered a couple of these in his part, but stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, those are probably the more obvious ones that people are aware of. But you can also get capital gains treatment on ETFs, commodities, vehicles, that was an interesting one to me, real estate, home furnishings, business assets, business entities like LLCs, and then Randy skipped over the word, and we're not allowed to say it, but alternate forms of currency also, right?
Right.
So I wrote this chart down, and Sherry and I were going over this morning, but if you're about to file your taxes for 2024, here's the rates, a brief summary on the capital gains rates. So you're in a 0% capital gains tax rate if, as a single filer, you made less than $47,025 in 2024. You're in the 15% rate as a single filer. If you made less than $518,900, that's a lot that you can make and be in the 15% rate as a single filer. And then in the 20% rate if you made over the 518 in 2024. All those rates are those incomes are going up for 2025 to account for inflation.
And let me interrupt you here just for a second. And this is a good time of the year. When you get your taxes back, if you're using a CPA or you're doing them yourselves, and you're having to pay or you're getting money back, this is a good time to take a look at that number and adjust your deductions with your payroll department. Because if you're paying too much in, you might want to adjust that so you're not paying the IRS more than you need to throughout the year.
Right.
So it's just a good time to do this.
Absolutely. Good thought. Married filing jointly, real quick, the numbers. If you made up to $94,050 in 2024 as a couple filing jointly, then you're in the 0% rate. That's a lot of household income that you can make and pay zero on your capital gains, on your long-term capital gains. By the way, I don't know if I clarified this. These are all long-term capital gains rates. As Sherry said, that short-term rates you pay the same as income. As a married couple filing jointly, you're in the 15% long-term rate if you made up to $583,000 and some change in 2024. And then anything above the 583 in 2024, you're in the 20% long-term capital gains rate. So those are very favorable. If you're holding something and it's been 11 and a half months, you're in either a 15% rate or a 24% rate, hold on to it for about 2 more weeks because it's going to make sense if you can. All right. So with a few exceptions, most states charge normal income tax rates on top of your long-term rates. There are a few exceptions. I didn't list those here, but Georgia, you're in the clear. You are going to pay normal state income tax on top of your long-term gains. All right. Few things worth noting on long-term capital gains. You cannot get capital gains treatment on assets held in a retirement account. These will always be taxed at ordinary tax rates, unless it's a Roth IRA, in which case you will pay no tax, which we've talked about a lot on this show. But in an IRA or a 401k, it doesn't matter what the asset is, you are going to pay income tax when you pull it out. Number 2, while you can get capital gains treatment on real estate, the rules are very different for your primary residence. You meet a few rules, namely, if you live in your home for 2 years or more, you can sell your primary residence and pay no taxes on gains up to $250,000 if you're single, or up to $500,000 if you're married filing jointly. and pay no taxes on those gains for your primary residence.
Which is a great deal.
It's
Yes.
amazing. It's
Right.
amazing. Capital gains treatment on real estate applies only to properties other than your primary residence.
Good advice. Good information. All right, next let's talk about tax deductions versus tax credits. And this one's real short and sweet, but there seems to be enough confusion between them that we think it's worth clearing it up. A tax deduction is when you can deduct an expense against the amount of income that you pay taxes on. And a tax credit is a dollar for dollar credit against your tax liability. It's that simple.
That's it. Yep. Very common example of a tax deduction, since we talk about this a lot too, is contributions that you make to an IRA, a traditional IRA. If you're over 50, you can contribute up to $8,000 to an IRA, and then you can deduct that $8,000 off of your taxable income. So if your taxable income is, let's say, $100,000, and you make the contribution to your IRA, well, now you'll just pay taxes on the $92,000 instead of on $100,000. And as nice as tax deductions are, tax credits, though, are even better. Whereas tax deductions lower the income on which you pay the taxes, tax credits are a reduction of the actual taxes that you owe. So I'll use myself as an example here, because the child tax credit is a very nice thing in my house. Child tax credit is currently $2,000 for each dependent child who's 17 and under in your household. So that means $2,000 off of your taxes owed. Well, I have 4 kids under 17, so I get $8,000 in tax credits. And so let's just say I owe $10,000 in taxes. Well, having 4 kids in the house removes $8,000 of that tax liability, and then I pay the remaining $2,000. So I'm a big fan of tax credits. How about you, Randy?
I know you are. Well,
Just
I was.
Used to
well,
be.
any credit,
Right,
any credit is better
helps.
than a deduction.
Absolutely.
Deductions are nice too, but credits are.
Yep. Credits are wonderful.
So the other thing you need to know is it depends on your income whether you can do a lot of this stuff.
That's a good
you
point.
become exempt.
I did see the income for the child tax credit, since I used that example, is $400,000 married filing jointly. I think. Don't
Yeah.
hold me to that.
So
but
just make sure you look up
that's
the
a good point.
look up the income limits. So last but not least, contribution deadlines. The IRS allows contributions for IRAs and Roth IRAs to be made up until tax day, April 15th, for the previous year. This means we have a little more than 5 weeks left to make any and all 2024 contributions. If you're under age 50, you can contribute up to $7,000 to your IRA. 50 or over, $8,000.
Yeah, and if you extend your tax filing, SEP IRAs and solo 401k plans even allow for contributions to be extended. Allow for contributions to be extended. Usually, the extension deadline for entities is September 15th, and these accounts have a much higher contribution limits than IRAs do. For 2024, the contribution limit to these types of retirement plans is $69,000.
Yeah, I mean, if you're worried about potentially getting a higher tax bill, I was just talking to a client yesterday. She said every year we turn our stuff in and just keep our fingers crossed because we just have no idea. And this particular client does have a SEP IRA, but you can deduct a pretty large amount of money from the income
Right off the top.
Right off the top.
Because I used to do it all the time
You-
before
you-
I
you're very
owned a
familiar with
business.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and the fact that you can do, if you extend your filing out to September, then you have pretty much 8.5 months till September 15th
Yep.
to jump up to $69,000 into a plan and get that deduction. So it's very nice.
All right. Well, Americans have always thought debt relief after the holidays. Now they're strugglers year round. Overall household debt climbed to new highs of just over $18 trillion in the fourth quarter of 2024, according to the New York Fed. A lot of the increase came from inflated credit card balances, which increased by almost 4% to a record $1.2 trillion. And digging out of debt used to be a New Year's tradition. The first 3 months of the year typically were the busiest for credit counselors, who were inundated with calls from Americans zapped out by out-of-control holiday spending or emboldened by New Year's resolutions to get their financial house in order. But that decades-long trend may be disappearing, not because borrowers are out of their debt stranglehold, but because they now need help throughout the year for their pricey car loans and their ballooning credit card debts. Bruce McClary, who is the spokesperson for the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, says the landscape has changed. He says that they are hearing more and more people who are feeling the financial crisis year-round.
Yep. A lot are stuck in what have now become unaffordable car loans, while others turned to their credit cards over the past years to buffer themselves from higher prices on groceries and gas. I think we all feel that pain. And that's catching up to some Americans and may snare more people, with inflation still not completely where it should be. Some of those increases in debt over time can be chalked up to population growth. Others are seasonal, like Christmas time, right, Sherry? And you buy
Right.
those gifts on credit cards. What's a little more concerning is the trajectory, though, of serious delinquency rates, especially for auto loans and credit cards. The share of borrowers 90 days or more past due on those debts is at a 14-year high. Not a coincidence, probably. Victor Russell, the operations manager for Apprizon, I think is the name of it, a nonprofit credit counseling agency, says he sees a trend of automobile loans payments being very high and causing a lot of stress on how people pay for living expenses and increasing reliance on debt. Russell said those calling to his agency span the earnings spectrum. The New York Fed report also noted that auto loan delinquencies specifically have been rising across credit score bands and income levels.
So, credit counselors at Consumer Credit Counseling Service of the Savannah area, Inc., in Georgia, are struggling to figure out a solution for one older gentleman who can no longer afford his car payment and his auto insurance premium, a category that has also surged in price. Motor vehicle insurance prices rose 2% in January from the month before and almost 12% from a year ago, according to the latest inflation data. Alexandra Kopp, Director of Operations at CCCS, said of this client, "The client has a decent paying job and has cut expenses on everything, but the car is the biggest expense, and that is a really tough situation that we're still trying to figure out." In general, a car payment should take up no more than 13 to 14% of an individual's net income, Russell said, though with the average payment for used cars at $525 and new cars at $734 per Experian, that rule of thumb is out the window. We're seeing individuals paying 21 to 22% of their income toward car payments. That's almost a quarter of your income just servicing an auto loan. That's not sustainable. The term lengths on these loans have also increased to 78 months when they used to be 48 or 60 months long, Russell said, meaning people are stuck with unmanageable payments for more than 6 years. And that's why many of his clients are turning to credit cards for their basic living expenses. But with credit card rates averaging north of 20%, that just adds to the struggle.
Yeah, for one, credit card interest rates aren't going down anytime soon, and those rates are directly linked to the directly linked to the Federal Reserve's bench rate. And after this week's report showing inflation ticked back up in January, the Fed may delay rate cuts even longer. At the same time, there is an increased uncertainty over the consumer prices or where they're going. Economists have warned that most of the tariffs the Trump administration plans to levy on imports will ultimately be paid by the consumers in the form of higher prices.
As a side note, I worked for Consumer Credit Counseling Service in Atlanta for 10 years, and we were able to help most of the people who came to us through a debt management plan. By working with their lenders, negotiating lower payments and interest rates, we enabled them to get debt-free within 3 years. What we are reading today is a total disaster. We cannot keep offering these ridiculous credit offers that break people. That outlook alone is a good reason for Americans who are even just a little worried about their finances to reach out for advice. You don't need to wait until you're in dire straits to get in touch with a nonprofit credit counselor. The longer you wait and the worse things get, the fewer options you have, and it becomes more difficult to turn things around. So if you know someone who needs this sort of help, have them call Consumer Credit Counseling Service, which is now CCCF, Consumer Credit Counseling Foundation, at 800-918-6709. This is a nonprofit, and they do offer phone counseling.
Side note, I just bought a car. You guys know that.
Right.
And I had intentions of getting one. I'm not a big car person. I've never required fancy cars or expensive cars. And it's a Toyota 4Runner. It's a 2022. And I spent more on it than I intended to. And that's because I got to a point where I realized that instead of getting a car that was less reliable and with better payments, I'd rather pay more. It's a tough spot to be in now because the cars are so expensive. If you want a reliable, good one that'll be around for a while, you're going to have to, buck up and pay.
You could buy something that's less expensive with higher miles and end up spending a lot of
more
money
in the
repair shop.
Exactly.
There's that weight. You've got to balance that out.
Right. And I've been on that side of it too.
Yeah.
And that side's not fun where every time you turn around, something's coming up on the car.
It'll nickel and dime you to death.
Right.
Well, actually, now it's $100 here and $100 there.
Yeah, right. For sure.
That's why my Honda Civic was just amazing.
Yeah,
I drove the first one for 12 years.
12 years.
Put 250,000 miles on it, and all I had to do was change tires.
It's
Yeah.
just,
Get oil changes. I mean, literally, I had nothing else wrong with it.
I guess my point in saying all that is, and you guys just bought a new car too, but you kind of feel trapped because that is the market now. If you want one reliable, you got to figure it out. I just wonder, Randy, you about to say something?
No, go ahead.
I had this thought while we were reading all this thing. I wonder if there would be a market for, like, if one of these automakers made a car that was basic on purpose.
See, I've read that there's a trend of that.
Really?
Because people are pushing back on these car prices so bad, but there's too many chips in them. There's too much IT in them.
About 6 months ago, we talked about the number of cars compared to 5 years ago that are under $20,000. There's only 5, I believe is the number that we read, that are under $20,000, and it's really sad that that's the entry level
Right.
car price. That is what people are limited to.
Right.
So yeah, I do believe that there's a market out there that people
I think it's huge.
it would be very well received by the general public.
To
Yeah.
strip out all this IT.
For sure. Here's a car that doesn't have an overhead camera, and the mirrors don't turn down when you reverse your car.
It doesn't
Right.
automatically brake.
Right. It doesn't drive for you. It might not even have a screen on the front that shows your music.
Yeah.
It's the old
Right.
school.
Right. It actually has a knob you have to turn.
Right. But
Yeah.
this car is $22,000 brand new. It's like, I think there could be a serious
That was
market
my
for
Honda
that.
Civic. Was
Yeah.
that it didn't have all the bells and whistles or any of that junk.
Right. I think
I think it's
They're gonna have
it's
to do it.
needed by a lot of people.
Yep.
for sure.
It's not just what they want; it's what they need.
Yep.
So,
Agreed.
And it could be made
but a lot of
here.
people go out and buy these cars, and it's a desire to have that car.
I know.
That they want to be seen in that car, and it may be the last thing that they need to have spent their money on.
Well, for people where it's important to have a Status E car, fine.
Yeah.
They're out there. You can get them, and you can spend a lot of money on them.
And then don't come crying when you
That's
can't
right.
pay your light bill.
Exactly. Right. All right. Kind of along those same lines, another uplifting one here. Most Americans are dissatisfied with their savings, according to surveys. Yahoo Finance polled in 2025 shows that only 22% of Americans are completely satisfied with the amount of money that they have saved. In 2024, Americans faced several financial challenges that impacted their ability to save and manage their finances effectively. Something like probably having huge auto loan payments, just a hunch. Inflation remained a top concern, leading to increases in the cost of essentials such as housing, groceries, and utilities, and straining household budgets. Credit card debt, there's that thing again, also reached record highs. Rising interest rates on credit cards and loans made it harder for consumers to pay down their balances. Additionally, many households depleted the excess savings they had accumulated during the pandemic, leaving them with less of a financial cushion. With all this in mind, Yahoo Finance partnered with Marist Poll to survey more than 3,000 banked adults in the U.S., which means everybody with one checking or savings account. And this shed light on the financial struggles and concerns that are facing households.
And here's what Americans say have been their biggest barriers to saving and how they feel about their finances heading into 2025. 2/3 of the respondents say that the cost of living for the average family in their area is not affordable. That's terrible. In a post-COVID-19 world, the rising cost of living dominated the financial news headlines. Many households felt the pinch as inflation reached a 40-year high of 9.1% in June of 2022. Though the inflation rate has since tempered, the sky-high cost of housing, groceries, and other essentials are here to stay for the foreseeable future. Overall, the survey found that most respondents described the cost of living in their area was not very affordable, while 22% say it's not affordable at all. That's terrible.
Only 1/4 of Americans say they live comfortably. Well, this is a very small poll, so I always really hate it when they have these low number polls. But anyways, not only are survey respondents unhappy with the cost of living in their area, but most are struggling to pay for necessities while putting money away for the future. Older Americans, baby boomers, silent generation, more likely are to say that they live comfortably.
It is funny you say that because I was looking back, the poll was 3,000 people.
Right.
That's
And then they
bad.
make a comment like 1/4 of Americans are not
Right.
living comfortably.
Right.
Right.
From the 750 that
Right.
responded in that poll. Anyway, 60% of Americans are more optimistic about their finances in the coming year with Donald Trump as president. For better or worse, with a new administration often comes new economic agenda. I think we're seeing this, and most Americans are expecting positive changes. I imagine right now there are many government employees who are not feeling very optimistic.
I
All
would,
the layoffs.
I would agree with you.
You've been listening to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management with your hosts, Sherry Goss, Randy Goss, and me, Jonathan Eisner. If If you'd like to contribute to the show, you can email randy@rfmoney.com with a question or topic that you'd like us to cover in a future broadcast. Our number is 478-922-8100. We have offices in Macon and Warner Robins for your convenience.
And you can find out more about us by visiting our website, retirerelax.com. Lifespan Wealth Management has been serving the Middle Georgia area for over 30 years, helping people like you achieve their investment and retirement goals. And if you're in need of a financial advisor, please contact our office at 478-922-8100.
We also offer seminars to the community at no cost. So if you are in need of a guest speaker for your church or civic organization, give us a call and together we can decide what topics you would like us to present to your group.
Again, our contact number is 478-922-8100. Now back to the show. You know, going back to this previous article, most Americans are dissatisfied with their savings, and it just makes me want to say that everyone has control over this. You know,
You're in charge of your own money.
Yeah.
You choose what you do.
Now, if you're in that position where you are dissatisfied and you're up to your eyeballs in debt, yes, you've got to dig yourself out of that first. And you can do that by starting with a budget and figuring out how to pay that off. You may have to get in touch with Consumer Credit Counseling or Green Path and getting some serious financial counseling and having them help you create a payoff plan. And once you get that done, then you can start saving and getting yourself in your financial house in order. There is a path to get out of this. You don't have to stay in that forever.
Here's my advice. Get a notepad and start tracking your spending on what you spent your money on every day. I preach this all the time. Make a sheet of paper, get a pen out, leave it on the counter every day. Where did you spend money today? Whether it was a credit card, debit card, or cash.
Yeah, you can do that now, whether you're in debt or whether you're free of that debt. I mean, this is a good time to any time is a good time to do it.
Evaluate, because here's what I see. I go to the grocery store and everybody's buggy is full of processed food, pre-cooked, pre-made, frozen, expensive, processed food and garbage. Sodas, candy bars, potato chips, garbage. Cut the garbage. You can probably save 50% at the grocery store if you actually eat a vegetable and some lean turkey ground meat, which is 3 pounds for $10. I mean, please put yourself on a diet at the store and cut out all the garbage. Don't eat any processed anything. And I bet you most people would drop a third of the money they spend at the grocery store. Next,
I got one better for you.
What? Quit eating?
Quit eating out. Quit eating out.
Absolutely.
And just go to the grocery store to begin with, regardless of what kind you get.
Exactly, because you're paying 3 times more for the same food that you could make from scratch.
That's right.
Okay, another one, hair extensions. I'm about to lose my mind over this. Everywhere I go, people have hair extensions, fake eyelashes, new clothing, trendy whatever. Stop it. Jewelry, you don't need to buy anything. When we were getting started, I used to buy all of my clothes at a consignment shop. Literally. And I looked very professional. I was working for Consumer Credit Counseling Service in Atlanta. No one could tell that my clothes came from a consignment shop, but they all did for fraction, like not even a tenth of the price as if I went to Belk's.
That's true.
Because we were building a house, fixing up a house.
No, we weren't building a house. We were remodeling a knockdown house. It should have been bulldozed probably.
Right. But so we were putting all our money into a house. We had kids in daycare, and I was driving to Atlanta commuting. So I couldn't go out and buy new clothes. And so it worked for me. I tell you what the other one is that drives me crazy. Subscriptions you don't need. You don't need a subscription to a car wash. You can go wash your own car. I mean, just think about everything you're spending money on. The gym, cut your membership and go for a walk. Cut out everything you don't need. Yeah. Cut the cable. Quit carrying credit card debt, which is costing you 22%.
I'm helping a friend now that's going through a divorce, and he sent me his budget. And there was $280 between 2 cable internet providers.
I don't get it.
And I'm like, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
I mean, and you've had this for how long? Well, I gotta be able to watch NASCAR, and you don't have to do this. You know,
you're choosing
to do this.
So there's a lot you can do to get yourself right sized. And on top of all of that, if you're in a career that's a dead end, you're stuck as a secretary, you're stuck as I saw someone just the other day that retired 20 years as a bookkeeper and never made much more money because what she did was so redundant. She never grew to anything more. How can you grow to something more so you can make more money, save more money, have a better future? I mean, quit being stagnant. Do something about your situation, please. Because this article just makes me mad that this many people are so frustrated, and they don't. This article didn't even offer a
Well,
solution.
the thing is, you can be in any job and retire wealthy. Look at the guys that we talk about on the radio all the time. The janitor up in Vermont that retired multimillionaire and left millions of dollars to the local library and other charities.
My grandmother,
Yes,
same
your
thing.
grandmother. I mean, that janitor up there, he
That was a great story.
great story, and it just goes. I mean, he wore a sweater that was held together with bobby pins, and no one had any clue that he had two nickels to rub together. So total shock. Anyway, you
So
don't have to be from an Ivy League school, or you don't have to have a high paying job. You just have to manage your money well.
and don't try to keep up with everyone else.
Amen.
Because it's fake.
It
It's
is- well-
absolutely fake.
First of all, Randy, you better return your hair extensions to the store before Sherry finds out about them.
Yeah.
First of all,
Is that mullet not looking good
it's not.
anymore? No.
It's too expensive. Is the biggest thing. I think the point of this article is that everything's so expensive that people can't afford the lifestyle. But to y'all's point,
You don't have to have an
you don't have
expensive
to
lifestyle.
have the lifestyle. And there was a time in my lifetime when people said, "Nope, I don't have that." Fill in the blank because I can't afford it.
Yeah.
And now that's like unheard of. It's like, well, of course I have Netflix because it's, or of course I have whatever, fill in the blank. And well, you don't have to have that if you can't afford it, if it doesn't work. So
Yeah.
anyway, everything is very expensive, but you don't have to have it all.
So sorry I had to rant about that because I just see it all day long. Anyways, next up, McDonald's gives its restaurants an AI makeover. I have been waiting for this, which is a big change. McDonald's is giving its 40, even though I don't eat there. I never eat there, just so you know. I don't eat fast food.
After you're just preaching about the grocery
Right,
store, McDonald's.
McDonald's is giving its 43,000 restaurants a technology makeover, starting with internet-connected kitchen equipment, artificial intelligence-enabled drive-thrus, and AI-powered tools for managers. The goal? To drive better experiences for its customers and workers who today contend with issues ranging from broken machines to wrong orders. The investments are coming at a time for McDonald's, whose U.S. sales were sluggish in January, reflective of a broader slump in the fast food industry. McDonald's said consumers remain pressured, particularly low-income diners and families. Quit eating there then.
Right.
The restaurant is hoping that a better tech-enabled experience will help it deliver on its goal of growing its loyalty patrons from 175 million to 250 million by 2027. To accomplish that, McDonald's tapped Google Cloud in late 2023 to bring more computing power to each of its restaurants, giving them the ability to process and analyze data on site. The setup, known as edge computing, can be a faster, cheaper option than sending data to the cloud, especially in more far-flung locations with less reliable cloud connections. Edge computing will enable applications like predicting when kitchen equipment, such as fryers and its notorious McFlurry ice cream machine, is likely to break down. The burger chain said its suppliers have begun installing sensors on kitchen equipment that will feed data to the edge computing system and give franchisees a real-time view into how their restaurants are operating. AI can then analyze that data for early signs of a maintenance problem. So imagine this. Side note, you need fewer employees, but you're having to pay for more people to run all of this stuff and for all the equipment. That financials would be very interesting to look at.
Yeah, and you may be wondering why we're talking about this, but McDonald's is is a really big deal in the restaurant fast
Yes.
food business, and we used to hold this in our portfolio, and of course then they kind of fell off because things were not going well, so we sold them. But a lot of people keep their eye on McDonald's as a good investment, and so we kind of keep our eye on this firm as well, and as do a lot of other people. But it also is very interesting when we talk about AI, and you hear us talk about AI a lot. And this is just a good example of how AI is really being used at the front end of everything that you, the consumer, is being subjected to, basically. So you're going to be dealing with AI at McDonald's when you go through their drive-thrus and when you walk up to their customer service counter. Excuse me. Well, anyway, McDonald's is also exploring the use of computer vision Vision AI, which is the form of AI behind facial recognition in store-mounted cameras to determine whether orders are accurate before they're handed to customers. For McDonald's, this is nothing new. They've always been implementing the latest and greatest technology. They've been experimenting with voice-activated drive-thrus and robotic deep fryers since 2019. And McDonald's began rolling out edge computing to some U.S. restaurants in 2024 and have plans to include more restaurants this year. For those who don't really know what edge computing is, let me give you a very basic description. Edge computing allows devices in remote locations to process data at the edge of a network. In McDonald's case, this could be a drive-through or a kiosk, even at the front counter where the cashier takes your order. While that does not seem like that remote, these locations generate a lot of data that can assist the management in improving response times by delivering insight from these devices. And edge computing solves three interrelated challenges for business at the same time. It connects devices to a network from a remote location. It improves data processing time due to network or computing limitations, and it solves bandwidth issues. So those three things linked together now is going to help McDonald's really move forward.
Edge computing will also help McDonald's restaurant managers oversee their in-store operations. The burger giant's looking to create a generative AI virtual manager of sorts, which handles administrative tasks such as shift scheduling on managers' behalf. Fast food giant Yum! Brands, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell have explored similar capabilities. McDonald's is an early mover in its industry when it comes to using edge computing, but it is by no means alone. This technology is expected to be used by any sector with distributed physical locations, including hospitals and factories.
That's fascinating. I've been waiting for this as the robot French fry machine has been out for years. It is tied to the ordering system, so it knows exactly when to dump the fries in the oil and when to take them out. You can Google search robot French fry machine video and see how it operates. It is fascinating.
It is. And technology is going to be key in helping maintain the edge in any field, and the restaurant business is no exception. The chain that can produce the highest quality food at the lowest price will win that race. And technology could very well be the catalyst that enables companies to get ahead in that race. And I believe that you're going to see the staff requirements at some of these restaurants drop because you're not going to need cooks. And you're going to need to have people to load the food into the hopper of sorts that is fed into the fryers and the ovens to be assembled by robots, and then possibly be delivered to the table by a person or maybe even a bot. The entire
or they just yell out your number and you have to come get it yourself.
Maybe the entire industry is just ripe for a technological shakeup.
This is all fancy and sounds good and great, but McDonald's needs to focus on one thing:
better food.
Ice cream machines that don't break down. That's it. That's all. It is unbelievable the percentage of time that in my life that I've gone to McDonald's, whether for a McFlurry for the kids or whatever, a vanilla cone. Our ice cream machine's down, sir. I mean, it's probably 75%.
You know,
of the
I
time.
never go there for an ice cream. I always divert to Dairy Queen. There's nothing better.
And their
once-
ice cream machines work.
They do
It's amazing.
without
You
fail
haven't been there for 5 years.
that you know of.
Always as in
Do
up
not-
to 5 years ago.
Do not tell the Krispy Kreme donut story.
Oh, my God.
I won't tell that. I won't tell that story.
All right. The $10 item that can prevent your car from being stolen. I thought this was interesting. Imagine lying in bed at night after a hard day's work only to hear your car engine start. Curious, you roll out of bed and check the driveway. Your car, though, is gone. There's no broken glass or signs of forced entry. Yet you have the only set of keys in your hand. What on earth just happened? Unfortunately, car thieves can replicate the signal from your key fob using specialized equipment. They're then able to get into your car, start it, and drive away the same as if you placed your car keys in their hands yourself.
Yeah, that's crazy. Modern key fobs constantly transmit a signal to cars. Thieves can use the device to relay or clone the signal. Sometimes these thieves are brazen enough and will steal cars in broad daylight at a public mall or restaurant. If they see a nice car that they want and the owner presumably is nearby, they can stroll around until they get the cloning device within close enough range. Therein lies the problem and the solution. The signal from a normal key fob is usually strong enough to copy from your driveway or, say, from 100 feet away in a crowded restaurant. So the thief doesn't need to be right next to you to grab your key fob signal. You know, if your credit card, you know how your credit cards all have that RFID signals, and that having an RFID wallet is a good idea because criminals can steal that signal out of the air. That same idea is what car thieves are using. Instead of having to bash your window and all that, they're just intercepting your signals, and then the next thing you know, your vehicle is gone.
The good news is there's a cheap and easy way to block the signal transmitting from your key fob and shut down that potential avenue for car thieves for less than $10. It's called a protector, and they're on Amazon for $10 or less. The car will automatically unlock if you are close to your car door with the key fob, but it won't unlock if the key fob is inside the protector. The key to making one of these pouches work: put your key fob inside as soon as you get out of the vehicle and leave it there until you need to unlock the car to get back in. So I recently leased a Lexus, and it has a huge key fob and cover. I called and discussed this issue with them, and they said their fobs are protected with RIF. They mentioned a couple of car brands that do not have this protection. So I went online, and according to one article, Dodge Chargers are the very easiest cars to steal. So if you're concerned about this, go online and see if your fob is protected, or go online and get a fob protector and enter the make, model, and year of your car, because it depends greatly on what year your car was made as to whether your fob is protected.
Yeah, this operates just like those little sleeves you put your credit card in.
Yes.
And if anybody's ever heard of a Faraday cage, they're called that as well on the internet.
But yeah, please go look at your car, look it online and see if your fob is protected.
Randy, the simplified car that you and I are going to come up with
Yeah.
and retire on
Yeah.
is going to have old school keys.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
No key fob. Go to your door and stick it in and unlock it and then put it in the ignition and turn it. I'm telling you.
I agree.
$19,000.
I think we've got something there.
We got it. 4 rules. This one hit home for me. The 4 rules for giving your kids a smartphone-free childhood. In the 2024 World Happiness Report, yes, there is a happiness report. The report shows Americans older than age 60 ranked 10th for happiness, but those younger than 30 ranked 62nd. Huge generational split. Jonathan Haidt, New York NYU professor and author of best-selling book The Anxious Generation, makes the case that technology is to blame. He says it is not too late for parents to take steps to help their children moving forward. In a recent speech at the World Economic Forum, Haidt said the reason that this is such a global problem and the reason why many parents feel so powerless is that when we each act alone and when we try to say no to our kids, their reply is, "But I'm the only one who doesn't have one."
And that hurts so bad.
Right.
Yeah.
I grew up with that all the time. I got used to being the person that never had anything.
Yeah. Yeah, but Northern Idaho, no one has anything. So
I don't know about
yeah.
that.
Anyway, Haidt says the collective action needs to be taken and makes 4 suggestions. First one is no smartphones before the age of 14. He says that children who receive their first smartphone at an older age report fewer mental health problems. And second is no social media before age 16. He says that social media is widely inappropriate for minors, pointing to the growing body of research showing how negatively social media affects young people's confidence.
Yeah, am I really a boy?
Right.
Right.
And then there's no or phone-free schools, and I agree with this. He believes that this policy should be government enforced and says that teachers all hate the phones, and kids can't learn while they're on TikTok and video games and amongst other things during class. And then kids need more free play, and I agree. They need to get outside on the playgrounds and be able to express themselves amongst the other kids and have an exciting childhood.
And burn off some energy.
Absolutely.
While restricting access to technology won't solve all the problems young people face, it certainly seems like a good place to start. Jonathan, how are you treating this with your kids?
This is why this one hit close to home. And I in theory, I do, or conceptually, I agree with all 4 of those points. No smartphones before 14, no social media before 16. I 100% agree with that one. Phone-free schools, absolutely, and more free play, which that's just obvious that needs to come back. But I kind of feel like this is a situation kind of like getting a car. Now, like I was talking about earlier, you feel somewhat trapped. And here's what I mean. We got 4 kids under 16, and again, the not being on social media, that's an easy decision for me because I don't want them seeing these unrealistic lifestyles that they think people live, and comparing themselves to that. And I think he's 100% dead on when he says a lot of this depression or not happiness, I guess, does stem from people seeing these not real lifestyles on social media. I'm good with that one. But the phone under 14, this one's tough. All right. Phones, are they addictive? Absolutely. And do they potentially provide access to things that kids shouldn't see? 100%. But the other side to it is having the ability to communicate and stay in touch with your kids. So I'll tell you what's going on. My 12-year-old, he's going to a Disney trip this month, March. And my wife is nervous about it, about him being away, that far away for that long. And we were going to just get him a phone when he turned 13. Not that that's a whole lot better. Later this year, when he gets bar mitzvahed, which is what we did for my oldest son when he turned 13. But because he's got the trip coming up, I went ahead and just got it for him. And now we're gonna have more peace of mind knowing that he can call us or text us anytime if he needs to. And he's not old enough and responsible enough for us to leave him at home and watch the younger kids necessarily. And so sometimes if we need to run a quick errand, we'll leave him at home for 30 minutes. Well, we'd love for him to be able to call us.
Yeah.
And landlines are pretty much non-existent, right? So I was thinking through this as I was thinking through, what I wanted to say about this part. And when I went on field trips when I was young, my parents didn't go and I didn't have a cell phone.
Right.
But
And you trusted the adults.
Well, that was one thing.
Yeah.
I think the adults were more trustworthy back then because they weren't distracted on their phone, right? That was part of it. But it was easy at the end of the night to call home. And
Right.
my parents paid $2 or whatever it was and accepted the call. And I checked in every night. Well, that kind of stuff's non-existent now. And so between kids spending the night off or going to meal with their friends, I think it gives parents more ease, more comfort.
Gives you a little peace of mind.
For
Yeah,
sure.
Well, you can
absolutely.
also
I get
track
that.
them. You can track where they are.
Exactly.
Yep.
So you can take advantage of it. You can track where they are. You can track what stuff they're looking at
Yes.
on their
All
apps
of
and
it.
their internet, which we're going to be doing, which we
Mhm.
do. You can restrict certain things on the
Yep.
phone. And the biggest thing, and I think the reason for concern in this article is limiting how much they're on their phone.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
so that's what the parents should and could and should control. And that's what we are planning to do. That's what we do is, hey, look, during the week, no phone time, period. On the weekends, you can use it, but it's going to be for this amount of time.
Yep.
And when you go
Limit
to
it.
bed, it's on the kitchen counter.
It's not staying in your room with you.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Even my 15-year-old does not charge his phone in his room.
Yep.
And so,
I agree with all of that.
so it's tough because I don't see the phone under 14 as such a black and white thing as Hayden maybe is referencing here.
Yeah.
The other three things, absolutely.
Yep. All right, our granddaughter has a tablet, and every time we go out to dinner, she was glued to that thing. Of course, she was watching
Silly videos and
silly
stuff.
videos and stuff like that. And once we got the hugs out of the way, she went to it without fail. And now that she is older, she has moved away from it and engages with others in the group, and it's really kind of fun. And I believe it is our responsibility to take time with these younger people when they want to say something. And she's very polite. She'll actually raise her hand sitting at the table, and we'll say, okay, let us finish the sentence, and then we'll get to you. And so we do that. We're very good at making sure that she gets her talk time, and because if we don't take time to talk to her and listen to her, then she's going to find someone else that will listen to her and talk to her, and we may not like what that other person's going to have to tell her. And, it's going to be up to us, right? Today kids face dangers that we didn't have when we were growing up. But there's also tools that can assist parents in helping keep our children safe. Since we're talking about phones, we'll keep it to that topic. There's apps that you can subscribe to that allow you as a parent to monitor texts and emails, and even detect cyberbullying. And some of these apps can be linked to over 30 other apps and platforms that ensure that your child is not getting sucked down the wrong rabbit hole on the good old internet. And I encourage you to check out a couple of websites that will help you make the best decision for you and your child and your own peace of mind. The first is from the Federal Trade Commission. And
I
if
don't
you
think
want,
I'll email you.
just email me, randy@rfmoney.com, if you want this article. And but it's at consumer.ftc.gov, and it's a kids' cell phones. And the next is Google best app to lock down a child's cell phone. And if you choose one that's not sponsored, because if it's a sponsored app, they're selling their app. But choose a reliable source like PC Magazine, the New York Times Review, Tom's Guide, for example, and they offer their own opinion on the top apps, providing the good and the bad features as well as the cost. And I looked at one when I was out there. It's called Bark, and it was really, really good. It looked good to me. But the most important thing you want to do is be able to easily navigate the features on the app. And if it's hard for you to understand and use, then you're likely not going to use it. So just go out there and do some good research on your own and get one that works for you.
You know, you mentioned your granddaughter Bailey,
Yeah.
and not wanting her to get the attention she's seeking from somebody that you wouldn't necessarily
Right.
approve of. That's certainly a big part of it. To me, the bigger part is setting a social example for our kids.
Yes.
Yes.
And the most important person for them to learn that from is us,
Yep.
parents and grandparents, right? And so that's why cell phones are not allowed at my dinner table. You know,
Oh, absolutely not.
because I don't want my kids thinking it's okay to be on them when it's time for us to be.
Yeah, your social circle is right in front of you, not
Yeah.
on your phone.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm with you.
All right. Shifting gears, student loan borrowers nationwide recently woke up to a harsh new reality that their credit scores had plunged, sometimes by as much as 200 points. The extended COVID era protections ended, and millions of Americans face a sudden, brutal reckoning with student loan servicers reporting late payments to the credit bureaus. The precipitous drop of 100 to 200 points can have a real implications for borrowers. Here's what happened and how borrowers can proactively and reactively take care of the situation. Millions of federal student loan borrowers enjoyed a rare reprieve during the pandemic. In March 2020, the economic shock of COVID-19 hit, student loan payments were paused, and adverse credit reporting was suspended. Later, the Biden administration introduced a one-year ramp-on period from September 2023 to September 24, designed to help borrowers ease into their repayment schedule without fearing immediate credit damage. The intention was to give people a break while the economy recovered. This was a temporary measure, and it was never meant to last forever. From October 2024 onward, any missed payments was reported as a 90-day delinquency, which meant as of early February 2025, borrowers who hadn't resumed timely payment were already seeing the fallout.
Once a borrower misses a payment and the account reaches 90 days past due, the delinquency is usually reported to the credit bureaus. This negative mark can remain on a credit bureau for up to 7 years, severely limiting future borrowing potential. The ripple effects extend beyond just loan approvals. Reduced credit scores can lead to higher premiums on insurance policies. This is the kind of stuff we cover every week. Less favorable rental agreements and diminished ability to invest in your future. At the heart of this debacle lies the systemic communication failure. Many borrowers reported that their loan services had outdated contact information, such as old email addresses, outdated phone numbers, incorrect mailing addresses, etc. As a result, critical notices about payment resumption and impending delinquency never actually reached the person they were intended to reach. Instead of a gentle reminder, borrowers learned that their delinquency through impersonal emails from credit bureaus or sudden cuts to their credit limits. The transition from the on-ramp to regular repayment schedules was supposed to be seamless, but has proven otherwise. Even when borrowers did receive a few phone calls, often dismissed by student loan borrowers as many as spam calls, the lack of clear, consistent communication left them vulnerable to falling behind on their payments.
For those who have seen their credit scores suffer due to missed student loan payments, there are steps you can take, albeit with no guarantees. Request retroactive forbearance, goodwill removal requests, dispute errors, enroll in an income-driven repayment plan, monitor your credit, update your contact information, which ensures your loan officer has your current email address, etc. This may seem obvious, but many borrowers have fallen victim to outdated records, making it nearly impossible to receive timely payment notification. And lastly, take active steps to rehabilitate your credit. Borrowers whose credit scores have been impacted should focus on paying future bills on time and keeping their credit utilization low. Those two factors make up close to 2/3 of what impacts one's credit score, and consistently strong marks should help improve scores after a few months. So, big and good information on what to do in this entire article. Any comments, guys? Last minute comments? Not so much.
I don't think so. If you have questions, we're not tax experts, but if you have questions as we approach tax season about ways that maybe you can be, it's things you could be doing that maybe you aren't thinking of, or things you could contribute to that would help you. Or Sherry, you work a lot with clients who do the qualified charitable
Yes.
distributions.
Yes.
That's a big tax advantage, and people may not be aware of those. That's where you give your required distributions to charities, and you don't have to pay a dime of tax on them because they go straight to the charity. So, again, all that to say, we got 5 or 6 weeks until tax day. Call us if you have anything you have questions on, or we can help you with. Give us a call.
Yeah, and if you'd like to come in for a consultation, they don't cost you at all. So just give us a call at 478-922-8100, and we'll connect with you next weekend.
Thanks for listening to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing we do is provide retirement planning advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. If you're looking for an investment advisor, call our office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation. You can learn more about our services by visiting our website at retirerelax.com.
And if you'd like to contribute to the show, you can email me, randy@rfmoney.com, with a question or a topic that you would like for us to cover in a future broadcast. And we look forward to connecting with you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Osaic Wealth is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth.